The night is quiet over the Persian Gulf. Oil tankers move slowly through the dark water, massive steel giants carrying the fuel that powers the modern world. Every hour, millions of barrels of oil pass through a narrow stretch of sea no wider than a city, a single choke point. Suddenly, radar screens light up. Military vessels move into position. Missiles are placed on coastal launchers. Drones circle above the water. Within minutes, the message spreads across global shipping networks. The Strait of Hormuz is closed. Oil tankers stop. Insurance companies freeze all routes. Global markets panic. And within hours, the world economy begins to tremble. But how could one narrow passage of water bring the global system to its knees? Why does this tiny strait hold so much power over the world? And what would really happen if the Strait of Hormuz were suddenly shut down tomorrow? To understand this, we need to look at the geography of power. The Strait of Hormuz sits between Iran and Oman. At its narrowest point, it is only about 33 kilometers wide. But within that narrow corridor flows one of the most important lifelines of the global economy. Nearly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through this route every single day. Tankers carrying oil from Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar must pass through this channel before reaching global markets. From here, the oil travels to Asia, Europe, and beyond. Without this route, the flow of energy that powers industries, transportation, and entire economies would slow to a crawl. But geography alone does not create power. History does. For decades, the Strait of Hormuz has been one of the most tense geopolitical flashpoints on Earth. Since the Cold War, major powers have treated this waterway as a strategic battlefield waiting to happen. During the 1980s Iran-Iraq War, the region experienced what became known as the Tanker War. Both sides attacked oil shipments in the Gulf, attempting to choke the enemy's economy. Missiles struck tankers. Naval mines drifted silently beneath the waves. Warships escorted commercial vessels through dangerous waters. At one point, the United States deployed large naval forces to protect shipping routes, turning the Persian Gulf into a heavily militarized zone. The lesson from that conflict was clear. If the Strait of Hormuz becomes unstable, the entire world feels the consequences. But the real tension began to grow in the decades that followed. Iran sits directly along the northern coastline of the strait. This geographical position gives it enormous strategic leverage. Over the years, Iran has invested heavily in asymmetric naval warfare. Fast attack boats, sea mines, coastal missile batteries, drone surveillance. Instead of building a traditional navy to compete with major powers, Iran developed a strategy designed for one purpose: control the choke point. In a potential conflict, Iran could deploy hundreds of naval mines into the narrow shipping lanes. Even a few mines would be enough to force commercial ships to stop moving. Clearing them would take days or weeks. Meanwhile, anti-ship missiles positioned along Iran's coastline could target vessels moving through the narrow channel. Fast attack boats could swarm large tankers, and drones could track every movement across the water. The goal would not necessarily be to destroy fleets. The goal would be to create chaos. And chaos in the Strait of Hormuz spreads faster than any missile. Because modern economies depend on energy flows that move with incredible speed. Every day, around 20 million barrels of oil pass through the strait. That represents roughly 20% of global oil consumption. Much of this oil is destined for Asia. Countries like China, India, Japan, and South Korea rely heavily on shipments moving through this route. If those shipments suddenly stop, energy markets react instantly. Oil prices surge, shipping insurance skyrockets, energy reserves begin to drain, and within hours, stock markets across the world begin to fall. But the consequences would go far beyond oil prices. Modern supply chains are built on predictable energy costs. Factories depend on fuel. Transportation networks rely on diesel and aviation fuel. Food distribution systems depend on shipping and trucking. A major disruption in oil supply would ripple across every sector of the global economy. Airline ticket prices would spike. Manufacturing costs would rise. Electricity generation in many regions would become more expensive. And within days, governments would begin to search for emergency energy supplies. But closing the Strait of Hormuz would not be as simple as dropping mines into the water, because this narrow passage is also one of the most heavily guarded maritime routes in the world. The United States Fifth Fleet operates in the region, based in Bahrain. Its mission includes protecting international shipping and maintaining freedom of navigation in the Gulf. Allied naval forces from Europe and Asia also operate nearby. This means that any attempt to close the strait would almost certainly trigger an immediate military response. Mine-clearing ships would be deployed. Air patrols would monitor the coastline. Naval escorts would attempt to reopen shipping lanes. But clearing a mined strait is one of the most dangerous operations in naval warfare. Each mine must be located, each threat neutralized, and during that time, shipping traffic remains frozen. Even a temporary closure lasting a few days could send shockwaves through global markets. We have seen glimpses of this before. In 2019, a series of mysterious attacks targeted oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman near the Strait of Hormuz. Explosions damaged multiple vessels. Tensions escalated rapidly. Within hours, oil prices jumped on global markets. Even though the shipping route never fully closed, the threat alone was enough to rattle the global energy system. This incident revealed something critical. The Strait of Hormuz doesn't even need to be fully blocked to disrupt the world. Just the perception of danger can trigger economic panic. But over the past decade, countries have quietly tried to reduce their dependence on this narrow waterway. Saudi Arabia has built pipelines that transport oil across its territory to ports on the Red Sea. The United Arab Emirates has constructed a pipeline that bypasses the strait entirely, allowing some oil to flow directly to the Gulf of Oman. These alternatives help to reduce the risk, but they cannot replace the enormous volume that normally flows through Hormuz. The strait remains the central artery of global energy trade, which is why military planners across the world constantly prepare for the possibility of conflict here. Naval exercises simulate mine clearing. Surveillance satellites track ship movements. Intelligence agencies monitor missile deployments along the coastline. Because everyone understands the same reality. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, even briefly, the consequences would spread across the entire planet. Oil prices could surge beyond $150 per barrel within days. Global inflation could spike. Energy importing nations would face immediate economic pressure, and political tensions could escalate rapidly as governments scramble to secure fuel supplies. But perhaps the most dangerous consequence would be the risk of escalation, because closing the Strait of Hormuz would not just be an economic event, it would almost certainly trigger military confrontation. Naval clashes, missile strikes, air patrols, and the potential involvement of multiple global powers. In other words, a local disruption in a narrow channel of water could rapidly transform into a much larger geopolitical crisis. Throughout history, wars have often begun in places that seemed small and distant. A border town, a disputed island, a narrow stretch of sea. But sometimes those small places sit at the center of global power. The Strait of Hormuz is one of those places.